Hey guys, it's Jake back with another video this week. This is also going to be somewhat different than the regular videos I've been putting out because I got a question today from one of the subscribers. Hi, I would like to know how did you get into mixing? I'm totally new. Tells me a bit about what he's using for mixing and for production. He says he's got a few Waves plugins and he's struggling when it comes to mixing vocals, and what plugins actually do. He says please feel free to share anything, and I thought that would make a good subject for this video because it's crazy the working with audio. There's a lot to take in, and my journey's been a long one. We'll go over it a bit. It's kind of fun to pull up these pictures from the past. I'm probably a lot older than some of you guys. I'm in my mid-30s actually, and so I started really getting into music in some fashion, when I was like 15. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have too. I think 14, 15, 16, music is a big part of your life. It kind of represents who you are. And so what happened, my journey was when I was in high school, when I was about 15 or 16, I was really, and I'm still a huge fan of the band Rage Against the Machine. If you guys like rock, check them out. If you guys like rap, check them out. They still hold up very well today. They were kind of a mismatch of their rock rap, but in something that still you can listen to today and not cringe. They were very politically emphasis on politics in their music, and I think that's a big reason why I keep up with politics the way I do and my views on politics. But I'll leave that out there because politics are an iffy subject. But the guitarist Tom Morello, he would take out his a quarter inch from his guitar, his electric guitar, and play the strings and make kind of like a DJ scratching sound. At the time when I was about 15, I really wasn't listening to rap. There was a few songs, that I listened to. Well, I don't know. Now that I think back, I listened to more rap, but like probably starting at age 14 or 13 is when I got into rap. I remember getting Snoop Dogg's album. I remember getting a single of Puff Daddy and Mace, Been Around the World. But anyway, Tom Morello would do the scratching sound on his guitar, and I really liked that. So one year I got a DJ set. I had 2 turntables and a mixer. I actually still have, hold on, let me make sure. I still have one of my mixers here. It's one of my old mixers. Not my first, this was my second mixer. I bought this myself. That's one thing, if you are going to be doing audio, never get rid of anything. I don't have my original turntables, but I have, because they were belt driven, and when you want to scratch, you want a direct drive. It uses a magnet instead of like a belt. The belt just doesn't work that well. It's not as responsive. It's not really made for scratching. So I didn't keep my original turntables, but I still have my other turntables, and I've had them for 20 years now. And but anyway, so Tom Morello, that whole scratching effect led me to gain turntables. Okay. And I started scratching like all the time in my basement, sometimes at parties. I never really got good at it. I think but the mixers I always had were not, they just didn't work that well. I could not get the scratching down as good. I knew the concepts and everything, but I was kind of broke. I'm in high school. I worked, but spent that money on beer and all that stuff. So around that time, I started actually working at Jack in the Box, and one of my buddies at work was a rapper. And so another year for Christmas, I got this. I got the Yamaha DJ X2 beat. What? I don't know. But it has a ton of beats in there, and it has filters and effects, and you can scratch. I think my mom got it for me because it's like at Target or something. I don't have this. I kind of wish I did. So we went over his house and we found a few beats on here, and we would record. We had a karaoke machine, and he had the microphone hooked up to the karaoke machine. I'd play the beats through here, and he would record on top. And then during the recording, I would mess with the filter some, but I really liked the environment and just being around music and people who created music. I took a minute to find a bunch of stuff I used back in the day. I'm not on that screen. Let me get on that screen. All right. So this is the DJ setup. And so you'd scratch and have effects and filters, and it has MIDI outputs so you can trigger other stuff. At the time, I really didn't understand MIDI. I kind of did. I thought you could send audio through it, which you can't. So I had this, and me and my buddy, he did about 7 songs. And actually, that was after high school that we did this. So for all of high school, I was kind of just DJing and messing around. I had this software in high school, Sonic Foundry Acid. And these were just kind of like little sample loops that you could... I was trying to find a good picture. But this is all like advanced. This is Acid Pro 4, which I think I was on 2. And on 2, it was kind of like you would just put stuff on a timeline that were loops, and that was it. Stuff would sync up depending on pitch. These guys got bought out by Sony, and this is what Sony Vegas came out of this. But they had these cool packs I would get at Guitar Center, and they'd have the loops on them. What else? I had Dr. Groove, which is a drum machine. I thought this was like a sampler. I kind of went to MPC, but this had just some internal stuff that you could use, and it was more kind of like techno. You could do hip hop stuff, but it had a really good like 808 kick. I remember that. I would just play that kick through the speakers, and it would just everything would shake. So I messed around with that, and just so you know, I I suck at production at this time. I still am not. I just don't focus in on it. So production for me is not something I do a lot. I do stuff, but it's a once on blue moon. We messed around with Fruity Loops 3, I believe, and that was back when you could bring in samples and stuff, but there was no way to record in the Fruity Loops, nothing like that. Let me zoom this in. This is an awful picture. But it's crazy how long Fruity Loops has been around. I think there's an article on Vice actually about Fruity Loops. Might be Vice. It was started by like a pornography video company, or something weird like that. And then like the last piece of software I really messed with before I went back to college was Cool Edit Pro. I really couldn't find a decent picture, and they got bought by Adobe and they became Adobe Audition. So this was kind of around, I was going to college right out of high school for computer science, which I failed out of because I'm not really a school guy. I don't work like that. So I kind of put things aside, did school, in my late teens, early 20s, you kind of don't have any direction. At least I didn't. And so I just kind of fucked off. I stopped going to college. I worked full time. And then one day my mom asked me if I'd like to go back to college. And I said, yeah, but I don't know what I would study. And she's like, well, what do you really like to do? And I remember back to my times with recording that rap album and just enjoying that process. And so that's, we started looking up music schools. And at the time, this was back in 2005. And there was not really, nowadays, even community colleges have a sound program, kind of like what I took. There was Full Sail, and then, you have your classics, but they're more for, kind of like musicians and stuff. And I wasn't really a musician. I played drums a bit when I was younger. I took lessons and stuff, but it really wasn't, was at Berkeley Music College, and there's a few others. But anyway, so there was Full Sail in Florida, and then on the West Coast, where I went, there was a school called Expression College, which was audio and digital arts and animation, maybe, or animation was just wrapped in digital arts. Anyway, it was in the Bay Area, and it was by Pixar. So Pixar would come for the digital arts students and stuff. It was really cool. We were probably like 3 blocks away from Pixar. So I went there. It was accelerated course. I only failed one class my whole time. I did get good grades, but what saved me is there was a written part. There was a normal test, on paper, explain how to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then there was a hands-on part, which we learned on some pretty cool desks. We worked on a Neve. I forget the numbering, but it was a Neve that Jimi Hendrix used to record an album. It was on loan from the Hendrix estate to us. So we worked on that. we worked on the SSL 4K, which if you watch like any of like Dr. Dre's videos and stuff, he's a big cheerleader for the SSL desk. And then we worked on the Digi design, D command, and the icon. Those just came out, and those were really cool, really expensive. And one of the teachers just said, it's just a big mouse, which is right. I have right now I have a not eight commandment. I have one of these, just to let people know, if you're going to be working as an engineer, even at home, get something with faders or knobs or something, because when it comes to automation and you want to write automation, maybe you're trying to pitch something, you want to, I never like using my mouse and drawing it in. I like using the faders and stuff. So I got one of these. This was a few $100s. You could get them used, just a few $100s. And I think you could get them to work with different DAWs, not just Pro Tools. But it's a cool little thing. I don't use as much for rap. I'll use it for automation, but when I really use it is if I'm working with bigger bands, gain my levels and it's just easier just to use all your fingers and get the faders just right. But anyway, so back to what I was saying. So I was in college. Oh yeah, I totally got off topic. But what saved me from failing these classes, I would study a ton, is I would take the hands-on, and the hands-on was also 50%. And I would get like a A on the hands-on. I would study and study and study. I have never studied so much in my life, but, we're not all, not everybody's is good at expressing their knowledge in the same way. Some people are really good at taking tests. Me, I suck ass. So, and that's just not with audio. That's with anything. Don't be bummed out if you don't do good in your classes on a test, because if you know that your shit, it doesn't matter what the test says. If you can go out and do it, as long as you pass a class. So anyway, after college, I moved back to St. Louis, and this was in 2008. So this was during the recession. It sucked. I couldn't get a job in the field. I sent out I had a demo reel from college. I had like a DVD, like you put in the DVD player, had a cool menu I made in 3D. And I sent that out, a bunch of studios. One place asked me to come and intern, and I did that. And it wasn't really what I would think it would be. I answered a lot of phones, which can be expected, but there was no opportunity to get hired on. And I did do some work there, some paid work, which was awesome. I got paid really good for really simple stuff, which was kind of crazy. But it really didn't lead to anything. I made a few connections. I'll say that. If I'll say that. If you go to college, And I'm not saying going for audio is for everybody. I think it's not as important as these schools make out to be. I'll give you a reason why, actually. When I was like 12 or 13, I played on a roller hockey team, right, with a bunch of guys, and we played together for a couple years, and then we all went our own ways. We weren't really friends. At least I wasn't really friends with them outside of the roller hockey team. But when I came back from college, I was looking at, internships and all these different studios, and I noticed, I'm like, this one studio's website had a picture of a guy. I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere. It turns out he was one of the guys I played hockey with. So I emailed him. He had his email, and I asked him how he got into it. And he told me, he said when he was in high school, he just went to a recording studio and just start sweeping the floors for them, doing anything. So, and now he was an engineer. He was probably the house engineer, I think, at, a major studio in St. Louis. So there's different avenues, different ways to do it. Not everybody can do it the same way. And I had a really good teacher in college that said it doesn't matter about the path. It matters about where you get to. So don't worry that I can't get an internship or I can't go to college. You'll have your own path as long as you stick with it. But he told me that he learned just through them. And so I think that's a great way of doing it. It saves you a ton of money because college, like I said, I got in huge debt and never had a job out of it. I still don't make a ton of money off of this yet. It's about to get there, not a ton of money, but it's about to get there where I'm making more. So it was '08. I did find a engineering job at like a small little dinky studio. Like it was in back of like a CD, like they had a retail store, and that they would sell like DVDs and video games and music. It was like resale shop, and it was like the owner, he was probably like in his 50s, like had a wife, I believe, like he remarried this like way younger lady, and she wanted to be a rapper, and so he set up a little recording studio in the back, and so they hired me, and it kind of sucked. So then after that, I had my inbox, and I linked up with a few local guys, and I got SM7B. I had Pro Tools from college. I bought it in college, Pro Tools 7.4. And then that's when I started recording out of my apartment. My apartment was on to get up to my apartment, you went through the side door. That's why the studio is called Side Door Media. And from then, to here, my mom's always been, supportive of me. And she helped me out by, she asked me, why don't you start your own little studio and this? And I kind of this place kind of fell into my lap. It was perfect. The guy moving out was an engineer, so he already treated the room and everything. He had furniture, which he sold me like super cheap. And Mom loaned me a bit of a nice little chunk of money to get things up. At the time, before I moved in here, I already had a SM7B. I had my inbox. I had my big knob. I had some KRKs. And that was it. And I just kept mixing, just like when you're starting out and you're a rapper, just don't even mix your stuff. Like, find other local guys who want to send you their stuff just so you have something to work on. Because, let me get back to the email, because I'll read off what I replied to this guy. Just so you guys know, if you're starting out, a few things you need to know. Mixing is a long process to learn because of a few issues. You need to train your ears to understand how you're affecting the signal. That's a big thing, is to understand what sounds good and what doesn't. Sometimes it's a simple thing to fix in terms of what you're hearing, but other times you might not understand. Your ears just might not understand that frequency needs to be tamed or whatever. And then the other thing is to understand your tools, because once you hear the music, the audio, the vocals, whatever, is what you need to do with your tools. What tool do you need to use? Do you need to use EQ, compression? Do you need to use something else? Do you need that's a big part to it too. Especially when you put a compressor on and you turn something, you got to understand what's going on with that. And that's why I say school can be good. I think school's great for a foundation. If you could go to community college and learn the foundational principles to recording and mixing, that's great. I think anything beyond that is not worth it. I think that's where you just need experience. And that's why I tell them, I said, the only way to do this is to keep mixing. Another thing is to try to find a mentor, or a place where you can get feedback from others. I think I talked about before, there's a subreddit called Making Hip Hop, which has feedback threads, or you could join their Discord. Because when I came out of college, all that money and time spent in college did not, it helped me, yeah, but you need feedback when you're that new. It doesn't matter if you know how a compressor works. Your ears are not there yet to know all this information about what you're hearing. So you need feedback, because you can get lost in the weeds real easy. You could be working on something that sounded fine when you first tweaked it, but you feel like it needs to go farther. And you need, that's another thing, you need to learn when to stop. Some things can't be fixed, especially maybe sometime I'll pull up some of my old recordings out of college, and I got a lot of stuff wrong. I'll admit it. It kind of takes me I'm a hands-on guy. So all that knowledge I learned in college, still, I need to do a lot of it hands-on. And a lot of it's, I knew why I messed up, but when I was doing it, I didn't know I was messing up, Like, afterwards, I was like, oh my God, why did I crank the preamp? Stupid stuff. But it's just, you got to just keep doing it. I tell them the process is long, but with YouTube, it is a lot easier to learn on your own. That's true. And as long as you have feedback, and if you guys want to send me your mixes, I'd be happy to give some feedback on them. I really want, and what I told him is, what I would like to do is a video series where you send your mix fully mixed and send me your stems and your beat unmixed, and we'll play your mix and we'll talk about what changes needed to happen, where you might have overcompressed or where you didn't EQ enough, or where, stuff like that, because I think that's also helpful, because you guys can listen to their mix and be like, hey, my mix sounds a lot like that. Let's see what Jake does differently and kind of mimic that. You take that, and as long as you keep doing that and get feedback, it's going to help you out. Your ears are going to get more accustomed to listening for these frequencies or listening for the compressor. So that's it. It was a long video, I think. Oh my God, that was a 30-minute video. Anyway, that's it. So if you guys want to do something like that, send in a mix. We could do something like that. I think it'd be helpful. I think it'd be a lot more helpful than me doing a mix and you guys just hear my process, which is fine, but I really think you need to hear where the mix could also be screwed up if it's not done this way. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of know, once you start hearing stuff that sounds like this awful mix, how to get yourself out of trouble and mix it in a correct way. There's no correct way to mix, but there are certain just kind of not rules, but there's just certain things everybody does because it just works. But so, that's my long history. If you guys want to tell me about your history down in the comments, that'd be cool too. Especially if anybody used any of this stuff back in the day. Hopefully there's some older people watching these videos. I feel like I'm in a field with a bunch of younger guys, which is awesome because you guys are the one with all the artistic stuff. Whatever I think of is long gone. You guys have the ears for what's new and fresh. You're not old man yet, but now I'm just rambling. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. If you would like me to mix or master anything of yours, please hit me up. Let me put my information up there. Boom. SidedoorMediaStudios.com. It will have my contact info. Message me. We'll work on stuff. You want to send in if you just want to send your mix over to me just for a little bit of feedback and don't want to do the whole thing with the stems, maybe you feel uncomfortable about having your stuff viewed by other people, besides like me, but viewed by just the general public. I get it. So if you want to send it over too, just say, hey, don't do a video on this, but can you give me just like a bit of feedback? And I'd be happy to. Just might not be able to have a long conversation back and forth. I might just be able to shoot off a quick email about what I hear and go about your way. Take that information however you want. Okay, so that is then this time. I'll see you guys. Peace.